primary directly. So I'm not gonna give like a lot of break, but just like probably 30 seconds, go like wash your face, pee, or quickly grab that bottle of water and be ready for the next session, which is having tough conversations with your MCer. Now, since Tony and Min has started talking about replanning, so this is one of the space where a lot of tough and difficult conversations happen. So I'm going to talk about that. Oh, just a second. Yeah. So it's tough because replanning is tough. Let's face it, guys. It's one of the very tricky and very interesting stuff you're going to have. And then post my session, you anyways have like a 15-minute break. So I don't want to take up a lot of your time. So I hope you've taken the 30 seconds and are ready for the next session. All right, let me share my screen. My CC buddy for today is Sampath. So yeah, welcome everyone. Momentum, we are generation 2025. Very interesting and powered by Invest Hong Kong and World Economic Forum Strategic Intelligence. So very interesting stuff happening. You may even see, you already had a session with Invest Hong Kong today, and then you may see in the replanning, you will use like for external context and all certain tools from World Economic Forums and all. So thank you partners who enable us in making this happen. So this is me. I hope you know me by now. My name is Prayog. I'm your regional manager for entity development and talent management for 1920 as well as 2021. And I was MCP of Nepal as I said in Nepal before. But I have another buddy who is supporting me with the session, whose name is Sampath. So before we begin the session, I just want to invite him. Sampath, what's up?
Hi, how are you? I'm doing good.
So basically, he's my CC buddy for the session. I just wanted to give him this space to talk to all the MCVPs here. Sampath, just tell us where you're from. Which ISEC are you from? And one question I want to ask you is, what is one of the tough conversations you have ever had with your team?
Thank you so much, Prayog. Hello, MCVPs. I'm Sampath and I'm from ISEC in Visakhapatnam, that is in ISEC in India. And I'm currently part of the regional support team as well as CC for RPM RFS. And coming to the toughest conversation that I had in ISEC is before 2 months, I was the CCP for recruitments, and I led a team of 4 people who got recruited along with me. So this conversation happened on the 45th working day, and 46 days are last, and 45th was our last working day. So things didn't look so good for us because the targets that I had and what I've achieved, what we as team has achieved, weren't looking so good. So I went to my EBCs. I asked them for 10 more days to extend the recruitments, and I had to go and have this conversation. Me as a person I'm not so comfortable, to going in front of people and pointing out their mistakes. But me being at that position, I had this tough conversation of letting them know what exactly they are lacking in, and coming in terms what we are doing wrong as a team and way we should make changes in order to succeed in the next 10 days. I mean, that's one of the conversations I feel was the toughest because I had to go out of my comfort zone, and that was much needed. And if I look back, I have no regrets from the conversation. It really helped. Yes, Priya. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sampath, for sharing that. It was not scripted, by the way. I just asked him because for my CC members, this is like a great opportunity to interact with the MCPs and MCVPs from the region. Thank you so much, Sampath, for sharing that. All the best for your future in ISEC. So with that said, these are the kind of tough conversation we and our members are daily having on a day-to-day basis with their teams, and replanning is one touch point where we get to have these tough conversation with our team because it's one of the most important touch points. So what you may take back from the session is certain guiding questions for tough conversation. This is something you're going to come up with. So Sarfina gave me a very challenging task to deliver a workshop in 30 minutes. So it's going to be like a quick 2-minute quick activity. That's where we're going to come up with certain things in certain areas. And I'm going to give you certain tips to how to communicate certain conflicting ideas effectively, and at the end sharing. Okay, the expectations are pretty simple. Be here and now. completely focused, not here and there. Hi, Iko, I see you. Don't look at your mobile. Huh? Okay. Kidding. All right. Be here and now. Completely dive deep. Don't just keep the conversation on an intellectual level, but actually like seek answers. Okay, so like actually think about implementation, how you can actually implement these with your MC teams. And last but not the least, share. I know we have like not, hey, it's 21 entities, like 5 CCs, so we are like 30 people. So this is like a very intimate conversation, so I want all of you to share. Okay, I mean not all of you. So how, okay, let's begin. Before I want to ask you, how many of you don't know what is 5 dysfunctions of a team? Raise your hand. Like raise your hand if you do not know what is the 5 dysfunctions of a team. MCs, okay, CCP, all right. Anyone from the MC who doesn't know? All right, cool. So I think pretty much all the, like, okay, some of the MCs also raising the hand. So I mean, this is a concept Jalid also mentioned. So 5 dysfunctions of a team is based on a book by Patrick Lanciloni. It talks about every team is dysfunctional at a certain level, and it talks about 5 levels of dysfunction, like 5 levels of dysfunction in a team. So at a basic level, it's trust, conflict, commitment, accountability, and results, and how during different phases in a team experience, how differently teams are dysfunctional. So it assumes that every team is dysfunctional in some or the other way. But then in some teams, say the dysfunction of a trust is a lot, where people are not even talking to each other. They don't trust each other well, and they're not real. There is an absence of trust, and there's a trust dysfunction. Conflict, where people are having artificial harmony. They are just okay with each other on their face, but not discussing real issues. Commitment dysfunction is about like people are not being involved in decision making. They just do what is said, and they're not committed to the results. They're not committed. Accountability is basically they don't hold each other accountable in the team. Like they accept mediocre results. And last but not the least, like result dysfunction is about like they just focus on their own department and function and do not care about their teams and all. So these are 5 major areas of dysfunction in every team, and it happens like this happens in your team also, how much ever you are your friends and buddies and MC member living together, whatnot. But then what is the differentiation factor is the levels of dysfunction in different teams. So I think most of you know. So I'm going to focus on this one, which is conflict. So by replanning, most of the teams have worked with each other a little, like for a good 4 months of time, and they've gelled, they've trust each other. Like usually around replanning, trust and commitment is this the kind of issues we start to see. Like I'm talking about my experience with working with various MCs. So specifically going forward and having tough conversation, I'm going to ask you this open-ended question, okay? Think of a time where if you think in your team there is an artificial harmony, that there are certain issues that you have to talk about, but they are not being talked about because everybody just sort of accepts it. Like it is the way it is, and you just move on. There is an artificial harmony, and then you don't speak up to big issues, or you don't speak up to the most important issues and stuff like that. So if this has happened to you, there is like a decent amount of conflict dysfunction happening in your team. Okay, having said that, this dysfunction at the core is about lack of clarity, because this comes from indecisiveness about values and priorities, which leads to conflict. And at its core, it's just lack of clarity. So how is it relevant? Okay, so like just think of a time where you are having this conversation and you're planning, hey, which portfolio should be a priority for me? Is it going to be is it going to be GTA? Is it going to be GTE? Or shall we test for VPP or EVA initiatives? Like, shall we keep up with the current national initiatives? How much of BD initiatives LCs should do, and how much of, say, how should be the financial model of the entity? So if LCs are not able to pay, then how we should move forward with finances? Or hey, the GV, like we have like a huge membership engaged in GV, but then we are not like we are documenting it. So what do we do with the membership? Like we don't know about their engagement. These are the kind of issues you have spoken about, and there must have been difference of opinions within your MC team. But if you all are not clear on why we are taking certain decisions, or why certain things are functioning in your entity in a certain way, then it's about lack of clarity. You're not all on the same picture, and that's why there might be a conflict of opinions about, hey, I think we should not do GTE, or hey, I think this EVA initiative is not working out, or hey, this BD initiative probably we should postpone it for another 3 months. I mean, these are the kind of conversations like you will have if all of you have clarity about the same thing, right? So like it depends on the type phase of team you are in. Sorry for the quality of the picture, but then if you're in storming or norming somewhere here, then what people are trying to do is like try to establish their place and try to find a consensus where everybody agrees to what is the best solution and moving forward. So it really depends on various factors in the team, but at the end of the day, what is most important is you need to have conversations. No matter what, no matter however tough it is, like the conversation you are trying to avoid are probably the most important conversation you must have. And in this 30 minutes, I'm going to try, this is like the main point you can take forward is like, if you're avoiding a conversation, if you know that this is a must conversation about, hey, what should be the structure of the next year, or hey, shall we just give discounts to the LCs on the recon mod, like for the national affiliation fee, or hey, shall we not experiment in certain areas, or hey, shall we resume GV, or whatever the tough conversation you're probably avoiding to have. Replanning is the space to have the conversation, because you just have 6 or 7 months left in your MC term. And if not at this touch point, then this is not going to happen in your MC experience. So this is the most important conversation you're going to have. So I'm going to give you about 5 minutes, okay, taking forward from what Min asked in the last activity, which is what is that one problem and one opportunity you want to take forward. I'm going to take it further and ask you this question. What are some of the key questions you want to ask during replanning, and how do you propose to find solutions for those questions? So this is not just about a problem or an opportunity, but if you're doubtful about certain questions, or if you're not sure of how certain things will be moving forward, then what are the most tough or the most important conversations you want to have during replanning? So I'm going to give you 5 minutes and to write it down, probably not 5 minutes, like 4.5 minutes, and then we can have like the next part of the activity as well. So your time starts now. Can you help me screenshot and put it in the group? All right, thank you. Just think, like take a note wherever you're taking notes or you're replanning. I'm going to play music till then. Oh, sorry, you're not able to hear the music. Thank you for telling me. one more minute. All right, time's up. Does anyone want to share any of the things you mentioned? What are some of the key questions you want to answer in pre-planning? What are those tough conversations you want to have? Like, I can take one person. Anyone want to share? Going thrice, going twice. Okay, go ahead, Jalil.
Okay, hello everyone. Hope you're doing great. So basically, I was just thinking about what are the things that needed more, more introspection and to plan things ahead. I think some of the three key questions that I'd ask everyone in the MC would include like, should we rethink the number of initiatives and and our timeline that we're going to have for those initiatives in the next half of the year? And then should we replan our synergies and routine, for instance, with IVA and TM, especially with MXP being launched, and then with marketing and GV being dormed as well and coming back. And then lastly, like how do we instill the right values to reorient the sense of ISEC and the culture that we want to have within our network? Because when the terms are ending for the LCs, they may not be very much focused towards their operations or to holding the culture that we have in our network. So that's something that I feel we really, really need to ensure. So it's more of a general discussion for solutions. I feel one thing that we must do is creating a joint timeline for every different department and working it out together. And secondly, to have how can we work on a top-down synergy, like from MC all the way to LTs, so that each department knows what's going on across the board, so that there's no clash in terms of initiatives or the change management that needs to happen, especially pertaining to each different department that we have right now. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that, Jalil. You mentioned about various initiatives, their timeline and LC onboarding, and basically their LCs buy-in for the initiatives you have, and how can you align the timeline of everything. That's something you need to rethink in pre-planning. Thank you for sharing that. Mexican Indonesia MC Dom, under 30 seconds. Who is that? All the three people are laughing.
Okay, hi guys. Hi guys. So like, because there are like three people here and from three different functionals, so I would say that the very first question that we like to ask during the planning is how we actually can like prepare and also getting on board of the LC to actually implementing the MX implementation, because it is something that can be a challenges in the M department, because they always thinking that you don't have to starting to implement MX if it's not really clear enough. I think that's some kind of stages that we are going to faces right now. So I think it is the important, like another question from TM, like how I can actually make like every single LC can on board and they actually can finding the solution, not only blaming and complaining about like the system that we actually have right now. And then the second one is more into like product sustainability in terms of our operations, since like most of the people always keep questioning like why we always like need to get like a lot of approval and so on, and until they actually get lost the essence why we deliver like cross-cultural understanding. So I think it not only in terms of like number of approval, but how we actually can ensuring like the market segmentation and everything. And then the very last one is more into about the financial, because what we are always like doing right now in LC level, they always thinking that finance, it's only thinking about how we actually can generate the profit, and then like they focusing on that thing. So when it comes to like something that actually downscaling from the MC level, they always thinking like we always like looking for profit. And then after and what we actually wants to like at the race is about not focusing on profit, but more into like how you actually can ensure your financial sustainability is actually can supporting your term, your next term, and until the next 5 years. And then like how do we propose to find a solution for like every single question that I mentioned is more into like the building and also changing the mindset from the LC, because they always thinking that we from the MC always trying to push them and like trying to get anything from them, but actually we are not doing that things. We are trying to like being a solution for every single LC problem. So I think like how we can actually shifting their mindset from like doing something for only creating a profit rather than like doing something for activating the leadership itself.
Thank you for sharing that. It's an age-old problem. You're not the first one and you will not be the last one to have this. But you mentioned about MXP, how it's not just TM's job, but it's everyone's job, product differentiation and marketing, like more about market segmentation and everything. And then you also mentioned about finances and how LC should play long-term in terms of sustainability. So thank you for sharing that, Isaac in Indonesia. All the best for your replanning. So having said that, like a lot of you have tough conversations in your entity, right? That you must take forward during replanning. So I'm going to give you 3 tips in the next 6 minutes or so to make sure that you have those tough conversations during your replanning and with your LCs in a right way. So there is this method called appreciative inquiry, which I like to talk about a lot. Some of you may have heard it from me or somewhere else. So there is this model of appreciative inquiry called 4D model. This is again a model where to create possibilities, this model is very useful. And I give this to a lot of MCs where this model believes that there might be 10,000 problems in your entity, but there is something in every system which works. Like this model assumes that there is positive core to every system. There is something which is your strength as an entity, as an MC, as a chapter. And then this particular model takes to focus on that and create different possibilities for you. So just Google this model, appreciative inquiry. You can talk to me more about it. It talks about discovery, dream, design, and deploy. Maybe you could use this model as one of the group discussion conversation, or a model where when you talk about hot topics during your MC replanning, you use this model. And always this model talks about keeping the positive core as a strategic focus. So if in the first semester you have understood that certain things are not working out, how can you discard it, and how can you work on your strengths and move forward with what works for you? What is keeping positive core as a strategic focus? This model talks about that. Create things instead of firefighting. Like how can you create the things which working out in you? For example, if you figured out, hey, MXP standard implementation is really working out for us, then use it. Hey, a particular local EVA initiative is really working in this sort of a market, then maybe how can we upscale it to the national initiative? Something like this. Like whatever works, create that and give more fuel and energy to that instead of fighting the things which are not working out. Always ask yourself this question: what is the opportunity here? And this takes back to Min's question which she asked, right? So appreciative inquiry is the first tip I want to give. Second thing is generous assumption. This is specifically while communicating. So during replanning, I have seen MCs fight, they cry and they do whatnot, but always have this generous assumption when communicating your idea, especially using appreciative inquiry, where like don't assume the works in any system. There is always something which works But when communicating, especially to the LCs, right, a lot of us are working with the change management and all. And like, for example, the way Vico was explaining, he was like, LCs always assume this, MCs do this, they have like a profit mindset. But then if you look into from LC side also, like they also are struggling to survive and all those things, right? They have to pay a certain fee, they have very pride. And it comes from a certain place where it becomes conflicting. So don't assume the worst, give the benefit of the doubt, especially when you're communicating virtually. You're not over communicate. Basically, this is one thing I tell to MCs always. If you want your replanning plans to be downscaled properly, you as MC need to work twice as hard on your ICOM plan and over communicate your plans and strategic focuses. And last but not the least, ask questions the right way. This goes to the way you ask questions during your replanning. Okay, so in your replanning, there will be a lot of spaces where you will brainstorm, where you will have questions about, hey, shall I take forward this H4TF initiative? Does it work for me? Or hey, say I don't think my JD is exhaustive enough, or I think I have too much work, or I think I'm taking too many departments. Like when you're asking these kind of questions, how do you ask that question and right question the right way? Like prioritize the why questions over how and what. It's actually harder to ask the right question than to answer it. And practice asking different types of question. And like, for example, something which regional office does is we use the 6 thinking hat method, where we assign ourselves like a particular role. So this is one person, for example, I always wear, like, say, white hat. The white hat person's job is to always ask factual questions during replan or during any of the team meeting. Or a black hat person who always should ask cautious question, right? Hey, what if this fails? What if it doesn't work out? What is the worst case outcome? The red hat person always asks about creative questions. Hey, how can we make marketing plan more creative or more attractive or engage more people? So asking those right questions during replanning is something very important. And those are the 3 tips I want to leave you with. The key learning from this session is this summary. First, lack of clarity leads to conflict, but don't be afraid to have those conflicting conversations, because the conversation you're avoiding are the most important ones. Use appreciative inquiry, have generous assumption, and ask the right question the right way. So if you want to take 2 things from this session, I want you to take these 2 things from the session is, what are the 2 or 3 guiding questions you want to ask during MC replanning? And when, like particularly which space are you going to talk about this to your MC? Can you take a screenshot and put it on the group? Can someone do this? And your MCPs are right now working on the replanning agenda. We have already shared a template with them. Once they send you your replanning agenda, make sure that you note down the questions you have asked, you have noted down here, and assign a session to it. Hey, this is the question I had about MXP. In which session I'm going to ask this question? Or hey, this is the question I had about LC finances. Which question I'm going to ask? Or Jalid mentioned he wants to talk about the timeline, right? So which space you're going to talk about that question? Like actually each question, put it to a session, and this will help you come up with like a more productive output. And you will not be afraid and restrain from having those tough conversations. So yeah, that's it from my side. We started 4 minutes late, we're ending 4 minutes late, so exact 30 minutes. That's it from me. Yeah,